Salute, brothers, fellows, comrades. I'm not a communist, but just anyway, I just like the word Kameraden, how they say it in German. Yeah. I would like to talk today about modern war, like warfare, war generally, and how it affects the gender dynamics and what it is in it for modern man, how it relates to us modern men. I think this topic is actually the most important out there because this is like we are discussing life-threatening stuff, you know, because it's been always that men were always the cannon fodder who would be just sent out to the war to die, right? And dying in and of itself is not like the worst stuff for me. I don't consider it like the worst stuff. I think there's way worse things in life generally than dying, okay? Um, because it was always like that, because man always died, right? But the difference is that, do you have the right cause to die for? Is there like enough motive, enough reason, enough goal for you to die, right? Is your death going to be justified? I think we men should be asking this extremely important question, right? And I see like uh, it's not being asked enough today, because there's this great example of the modern war nowadays. Of course, it's the Ukraine, right? That's what we all monitoring. That's what we all have been monitoring for the past like 3 years, I think. And me especially, because I live in Central Asia. I live in Kazakhstan, to be precise, and this war affects us even more because, as some analysts have been saying, we are probably next. Russia is going to attack us, and there has been a lot of talks about this. And unfortunately, I've been noticing this in the media. There's a lot of sort of trash talking. The Russians are trash talking towards us and our analysts, and there's a lot of sort of diplomatic battle going on, despite the fact that our president, he does his best to sort of be in good relationships with Putin. But if the bear is that mad, there's nothing you can really do, And if Russia has already set its eyes on us, then there's really nothing you can do about it. And if you look at the map, Kazakhstan is really huge. It's way bigger than the Ukraine, and I mean the Ukraine was the Ukraine was way more important as a goal, because Ukraine has always been like a demographic sort of base for Russia, because a lot of Russian people who live in Russia today, they are ethnically Ukrainians. You can see it by their last names, and that's why Russia doesn't want to lose them, because it wants to become like a huge empire again, right? There's ideas like that, right? And I mean, uh, I can't say I'm a huge like a crazy patriot of my country and all that, but uh, I would never agree to be a part of Russia. If I want to just live in Russia, I would live there. I actually, when I was younger, I thought about leaving to Russia, right? But now when they, just sort of basically just occupying my country just because they feel like it. No, of course I'm going to oppose this, right? Whoever wants to go to Russia, even I want it at some point, they can do it. A lot of Kazakh people just leave to Russia if they feel like it, because there's lots of Kazakh people who are Russian speaking, and they probably like feel more sort of closer to Russia culturally. Okay, I mean, we live in a free world, and people are supposed to be sort of free in their choices. That's my belief, right? If you want to go, the gates are open. Just leave, right? And for example, if I left to Russia, I had those ideas. I have a lot of friends in Russia, actually, in Moscow even. I have like a close friend in Moscow. He visits me almost every year now, and I would do that, and then I would be a patriot of Russia. that would be fine, right? But I live in Kazakhstan, and I'm ethnically Kazakh, and I'm a patriot. I can't say like I'm huge patriot because I'm very sort of globalized person, because I speak three languages, and I consider myself like to be very internationalized. So I don't really care that much. I'm not into this, sort of patriotic games, but Russia is not doing good when it just threatens, Kazakhstan, some of their politicians. That's just not good, right? And I mean, if war strikes out, I don't know how it's going to go, how it's going to look. I have zero idea. I mean, our military is not prepared well, seemingly. But there's also this religious factor, as people like to put it. There's religious factor, right? Because when Russia is fighting the Ukraine, it's just a beef between, Orthodox Eastern Christians, right? Even Catholics don't really have a big dog in the fight. They don't really care that much because we know the relationships between the Eastern Christian Church and the Western. I mean, the Catholics, right? The Protestants and the Catholics. There's a huge division, right? So when the Orthodox people are killing each other, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you sympathize, but it's not that big. But if Russia attacks Kazakhstan, despite the fact that Kazakhstan obviously is weaker than Ukraine, there's this religious leverage because Kazakhstan is a part of this huge 1.5 billion sort of Islamic world, and I don't know how the other Muslim countries would react, especially Turkey. Turkey, ethnically close to us. The Turkish people, they actually originated in Kazakhstan like a millennia ago, right? So they consider us to be sort of their historical homeland, and us to be like close to their sort of ancestors, maybe. So they would have a serious freaking beef with Russia. Probably not go full mode sort of war, full scale war with Russia. I doubt it, but they would be pissed. That is for sure. And then China also. China would also be pissed because Xi Jinping came to Kazakhstan. I think he came like last year or a year before that, and he clearly said that China guarantees the sovereignty of Kazakhstan and territorial integrity. I mean, he just said that outright. That sounded like it was a message to Putin. So hopefully he will stand by his word. I don't know, but then in Kazakhstan we have kind of like this. I would say like we are very unsympathetic towards China, and despite the fact that I mean I have no sort of no nothing negative against the China and the Chinese. I think they have like a really great culture, but historically it's been there, and it has to be accounted for. I don't know how the reaction will be if China actually um, gets its own army, its military actually into our soil. I don't know how our people would react to that. I don't know. It's a huge mess. I hope nothing will happen. I hope my country will maintain its Swiss status basically, and not get into any beef with anybody eventually. I hope our president will keep being the good diplomat that he has always been. So yeah, but anyway, the whole discussion here actually is about the war, right? I mean, I'm sorry for this sort of long intro. Just I don't know why I was discussing this. Anyway, the modern war. How does this actually relate to man? I mean, if you look at the Ukraine, for me, I think since the war started, there's like millions of women. They just left the country. If you can even go ahead and you can even like go ahead and ask Chat GPT. There's like 4 million Ukrainian women left the Ukraine for Europe since the beginning of the war, and 3 million children. And honestly, I realized that it's so uncommon because historically, men, if a war strikes out, men never actually just send their women and children out to a foreign land. That would never happen, because that would be tantamount to losing your women, because they wouldn't be safe in foreign lands, right? They would pretty much be immediately apprehended by the foreign man, and then maybe even sold into slavery. These things they happen in history, right? So, but now women are free to do whatever they want at the times of war, and man can't leave. If you look at the laws in the Ukraine now, men are not allowed to leave, while women, as long as these women are not serving in the military, right? Like, they're actually obliged to serve. They have a contract, right? But you don't really have many women who have contracts, and the ones that have, they did it voluntarily, so they can't really complain about it. But the men, it's all men. All men are not allowed to leave unless you are a diplomat. Maybe you have some special reservation, like special um, like ticket to leave, right? Given to you by the Ministry of the Internal Affairs and stuff. It kind of goes to show that even today, when there's equality, claimed equality, right? In the Ukraine as well, because the Ukrainian women, they were running with those posters, I'm equal to man, F the patriarchy and all of that before the war. Now it's just crickets. You don't really hear anything from feminists. Why? Because it's convenient. Like, Ukrainian women are just leaving by thousands, actually by millions, and men have to stay. Actually, there's like a video from a recent Ukrainian, like, popular podcast, where where a Ukrainian woman, she openly says that it's good that her husband is not allowed to leave the Ukraine while she can, and she will just travel to Dubai and have fun, and her husband needs to stay. Why? Because, well, there's really nothing for Ukrainian men to do in Dubai. That's actually what she says. I mean, it's as crazy as it sounds, there's nothing for Ukrainian men to do in Dubai. Well, apparently there's a lot for Ukrainian women to do in Dubai, and we saw those news even in the West. You saw them, right? When one Ukrainian female, like 23 years old, when she was thrown off the roof in Dubai after some pot party or something. I don't know how they call that. Well, apparently it's a party where rich Dubai sheikhs, or not, I don't know, like, just rich Dubai Arabs, they use, like, women as toilets, from my understanding, and I don't know, they probably make them sleep with camels too. I don't know, that's just, well, that's my imagination. But then, I mean, there's lots of crazy stuff in the world, right? And I mean, is this what she meant when she said, well, there's stuff for Ukrainian women to do? Like, what? And a Ukrainian man, and she literally says, there's, Ukrainian men, I saw what Ukrainian men were doing in Dubai, and just Dubai has a very bad influence on the man generally. So men shouldn't be going to Dubai, it's just the women. Like, what influence? I don't think there's a lot of Ukrainian men, going to Dubai and selling their bodies. But we know that women are doing that in mass. And now she has the nerve, actually, to be on the podcast and spewing this nonsense. You see the nerve, right? Generally, why did the women leave? Can anyone explain this to me? Why were they allowed to leave the country in the first place? I think, especially nowadays when there's the claimed equality of the genders, right? Why do women just get to leave? Right? I mean, and now the Ukrainian government is claiming that they have a shortage of labor force. Well, I'm sorry, you got millions of women just openly leaving the country. And then we see, the stupid TikToks, like this one, for example. This lady, she left to Germany since the war started, and now she complains that the German dudes apparently are bad dates. They don't want to pay for you. They don't want to pay for your meal for nothing, because why? Because Europe has equality. Well, before this, She had other videos where she was complaining that the Ukrainian men are patriarchal, that they pay for you. That makes them patriarchal, controlling. And now she went to Germany, and now she complains that German men they're just too sort of feminist. They want equality. You came to a foreign country, and now you're complaining about their rules. You want to inject your own rules. The nerve that they have, these women, the nerve. See, and I mean, at the times of equality, this never happened at the times of patriarchy. But now, at the times of equality, it's even worse than at the times of patriarchy. Then why do we have this equality? Why do we even have this, right? A reasonable question to ask. I believe that women should be fighting for the country, or at least they should stay. Ukraine is vast enough to shelter, 7 million more people. Its own people. It's vast enough, okay? But just leaving the country, I'm sorry, that's not going to serve any good. And in my opinion, I think that's, if not the most important, well, one of the major reasons why the Ukraine is not winning the war at the very least. Because men don't have the morale anymore. Their morale just went down, because if your women are chilling in Europe while you are dying in the trenches for your country, I don't think any man would have high morale. But the government doesn't give a shit. You know why? Because no solidarity among men. I think that plays a factor too, because the government, there's men and women in the government, right? There's like 30-40% women, and then like 60%, 70% men. It depends on a specific country. But anyway, they only care about like their own self, right? So they look at the war in the old ways. They look at the war just as their predecessors did, right? It's men who are supposed to be the cannon fodder, because men are wastable. You can waste men. We just, nobody cares about men, right? Because even evolutionarily and just biologically, you can waste lots of men. You can, even if you lose 90% of the male population, the 10% can still breed with all the rest of, with all the female population, right? And they will breed at enough speed. But if you have the vice versa, like 100% men and 10% women, breeding at that speed is not possible. That is the reason why men are regarded as just wasted material. Nobody cares about men. So that's the reason why women are free to leave. And that's not fair, because the feminists made the calling that they are equal. They have the same vote, so they should be fighting. If not fighting, I'm not like a huge proponent of females on the front lines, but I think that they should at least be a great utility, sort of handing out the bullets, as the old proverb. I don't know which nation this proverb came from, but as it goes, men are operating the machine guns, and women are handing the bullets to their men. It's kind of like that. They're supposed to be sitting and sort of providing to their men, so that the men would be fighting good. But now they just left. And then you see all these stupid TikToks. Thousands of those TikToks, and they have the nerve to be sitting in Germany, in Poland, in Italy, and just complaining. Oh, I don't have like my life that great, because those men here, they don't want to pay for you. They're like mama's boys and all that. They are not gentlemen. Like, shut the hell up. Go back to your country, right? Because you were fighting for equality. Just look at this, right? In terms of the demographics, just you have to realize as a man, this shit may come to any country, right? All of you, well, at least Eastern Europe is under great threat. Maybe the United States is not under that much of a threat, but the United States might have an internal war, like civil war, right? Because the United States is washed up by Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, so it's not under great risk of foreign intervention, unless it's Canada or Mexico. But you could have like a civil war. That's a possibility, right? So you always have to You need to get that masculinity back as soon as possible, because this shit may come to you too. And just in case, you need to bring the masculinity back, but also maybe if you really don't want to take part in the war, right? Uh, you need to find an exit, and you need to be thinking about it right now. You need to start working on it right now, because shit may come pretty freaking quick, actually. And then you won't be allowed to leave, like the Ukrainians are not allowed, right? Because men are freaking trash. We are regarded as trash. We're spareable. We can be wastable. We are regarded as wastable material. No one gives a shit about us. If you are drafted, forcefully, it's much better for you to die there than to come back crippled, limbless, having lost your legs and your arms. Brother, maybe blind too. I saw that video in the Ukraine of that guy. He came, like, I think he lost like his limbs, and also he's blind. Honestly, I looking at this, I now root for euthanasia. At least the government at least should acknowledge that it's going to be like really hard, right? At least have the freaking guts to acknowledge that if man wants to die, at least give him the peace of death. Okay, give the man at least freaking to live his life with some freaking grace and dignity. Okay, you treat man as trash, but at least let us freaking go with some freaking dignity. Okay, give us means for euthanasia at your cost. Euthanasia, I think it costs like a few $1,000, but how about at least we have some freaking care about man, at least in this freaking instance? No, they're not gonna do it. Your lady will probably leave you, and you are left. Hopefully, well, I mean, even if you have your parents to look after you, it's not gonna be for long, because they're getting old. They will die, and then you're gonna be left alone, limbless and freaking blind. Who's gonna take care of you? The government, they will just pretend that they care about you. They'll be just writing those stupid freaking checks. Oh, yeah, we do take care. We are a social shut the hell up. You're not a social welfare country. You're not. You're just pretending. No one cares about men. That's the reality. Okay. And the worst of it is, okay, if no one cared, okay, I would be totally fine about it, as long as I would have a solid goal to fight for. But we don't even have that. Do Ukrainian men have a solid goal to fight for? No, by definition. Why? Because their women are living in mass. How can you have something to fight for when your women are basically betraying you? And there's a lot of Ukrainian men who are complaining about this. He's in the trenches fighting, and his wife or his girlfriend, sends him like a WhatsApp message that I'm sorry, honey, like, but I have to like work on my personal life, on my private life here in Germany. Like, seriously? Why is this even allowed? Especially now when there's like the equality, gender equality. It's equality only. It's not even equality, actually. It's like equality in the rights, but then women also have the privileges and zero responsibilities. Zero force majeure responsibilities is how I would put it. So you really have to think twice, like, should you even take part in any war that could come to your soil, to your door? As a man, maybe you should be searching for an exit strategy, because if it comes to your country, is there something for you to fight for? If you have a family already, like you have a decent wife, yeah, for sure, you have something to fight for. If you don't have that, maybe you should just leave. And no one has the right to complain about it, to shame you on that, because I'm sorry, correct the fucking system first, okay? Stop being greedy, stop hating man, correct the system first, then demand from man. Yeah, so that's it, guys. That was just a little rant from me. And anyway, I see you in the next video. Subscribe to this channel or put a like, and visit my shop. It's bastionofman.com. Grab something for yourself.